So, okay, if you know me, you know that I'm a numbers girly. So I know I continue to have the admissions, the UC admissions conversation, but I just think it's kind of worth it because I can't believe these are. I want to break down these numbers with you guys. So I don't know. To me, it hits so hard because it like really it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. But like, hear me out. So I was trying to figure out, like, in raw numbers, like so the UC system, the University of California universities, there are 9 campuses, right? And it looks like in the whole state of California, in terms of high school students, so all the students who are enrolled in California, there's about 6 million students. 600,000 of those students are Asian. Okay. So there's a lawsuit filed because there's an Asian student who he had a very high GPA, but he didn't get into any of the UCs. He didn't get into Stanford or MIT. And he's suing now because he got a job offer at Google for like a PhD level software engineer. So he's suing for discrimination, for racial discrimination. But like, look at these numbers. Like, so who usually when people are saying the racial discrimination is happening, they're saying that unqualified, basically they're kind of asserting that Black students probably, or maybe it's Hispanic students now, I'm not sure, but usually it's Black students are taking our spots. But these are the current numbers. So currently, the percentage of Black students at the University of California is 4%. That's all of them. So do you want to know how many that is? That means that 6,640 students of all 9 campuses are Black. 6,640 students are Black at the University of California. How many Asian students are there right now? 66,400 students, Asian students, are on the campuses right now. And remember, in the state of California, only 576,459 are Asian. So like, let's even go a little bit further here. So if like, what percentage of that, like, you'd have to do 664 divided by, what is that number? It's 5764 59. That calculator isn't really working for me right now, but let's see if it'll. I don't know, I might have to do this on my laptop and figure out what that is, but I wonder what percentage that is. That's probably looking like maybe a fifth. Like 100,000 students would basically be like 20%. So it's a little bit less than 20%. It's probably like 15% of all of the Asian students in public schools in California are getting in. If we're talking about all the number, like, I'd have to do a little bit more research, but I would assume the 13% is probably accurate, maybe a little bit more. So we could say that like 20% of all the I would say probably like 13% of all the students enrolled in California are Black. But of that, I think it's way less. I think we're talking like 0.01% of those students are actually admitted to a UC, and even less than that actually go. So are enrolled. So all of this fight and all of these like lawsuits that are coming up, and when people are talking about less deserving students are getting spots, if we're talking just about the Black population, they're fighting for 6,000 spots across 9 campuses. And that's with the assumption that basically no Black person is qualified to go. 6,000 spots. That's kind of like, so it looks like just at the UCLA campus in the fall, there were like 6,000 students that enrolled for their freshman term. 40% of those students are already Asian. And this is what I've been saying this for like the longest time. If we're talking about like demographics and population, the thing I think people don't understand is you're competing with people who are like you. Like you're competing, these Asian students are competing amongst each other. So yes, his stats might have been like really great, but there's probably like a lot of other Asian students whose stats were like the same as his. And that's why they got in and he didn't. And like that. But also they use like a whole person application to determine like how it's not just your, because all he talked about was like SAT scores and grades. And that guy's really smart. He got a job at Google, so he's smart. He wins. Like I don't I don't understand. Like what are we talking about here? Because also like this is a public university. He also did not get into Stanford or MIT. So like what the reason that this is like very confusing for me is I feel like quite a lot of people in our community are like stepping back from the DEI conversation. We're stepping back from the affirmative action conversation, except like we're almost like not just stepping back from the conversation, but also stepping back from the opportunity, which is kind of like really sad. I think everyone, not everyone, but quite a lot of people have just bowed out at this point. Like they're just completely out of the game. It's not even a game. It's like something else. Like for a very long time, I feel like last year and the year before were like the year of the red pill men coming online and saying the shit, like the worst things that they could say about women. And especially like some black guys getting online and just saying brutal shit about black women. And then they kind of won, right? Because like their voices were amplified, their messages were promoted, they were monetized, they were all of these things. And then I don't think they realized what the loss looked like. The loss looked like every single day for this has been going on for like the last 15 years. Like 900 black babies were aborted. Black women just aborted the babies. They just threw them away. 2 died of hypothermia. It's like sometimes winning does not really look like winning. Like I'm sorry, but I would not argue that they like won. They like lost the race, as in like the actual humans that could have been supporting them in some way are like dead and gone. That's not really winning. Like that's kind of like, and in this case, I feel like what these people are fighting for, I guess, is maybe like 100% Asian campus, which I don't know how you could ever expect to get that in a state like California that is like primarily Hispanic. Like the whole state is like 46% Hispanic. What is it that they're fighting for? Like you have to make sense of shit like within the context of society. These are public funded institutions. Like everybody's tax dollars are going in to fund that one. I can't talk about what Stanford does and I can't talk about what MIT does, but I will say like I have many colleagues who have gone to Stanford and MIT, but also like, and that's what I keep talking, like for a very long time, I like did not see my own privilege. I thought that like our public schools and our extracurriculars were just normal, right? Because like we all did the same thing. But really like upper middle class black people, like we all know each other because like we're all doing the same shit. And there's just not that many of us. You're talking about 6,000 fucking people. Like that like MLT program that like I've talked about this before that Matt did. I didn't realize like all the black booblers do that program. There's not that many of them. I could like name them on my hand. There's like 11 individuals, and you're like like the really strange part is I don't think these like this kid and his family, and I really think those communities like they don't see the other side. The part of that, like when we're talking about that equality race, remember like I made that picture yesterday that was like the circle, and it's kind of describing how everybody can just run their own race, right? Like if Black people decide to like never go to like the University of California, they'll be fine. Like we have HBCUs, we have like quite a lot of other options that we've had to like build in order to like just have our own shit anyway. But that's not the point, because like I mean I do think that if some people choose like the integration route, you should have like the option to go to a UC if you want, especially if you're like a brilliant Black student. You should be able to go. And it's like these sort of um it's like negating all of that. It's like, damn, like y'all really don't, like I sometimes I want to like not shade Yara Shahidi for like taking my story, but then I guess I feel like I realize like how necessary it is for her to take the story. Like, so, and I've told this before, but maybe I'll do like a super deep dive to like understand how this played out. Like, it's one of the main reasons I feel like I started this channel, because I felt like, why is she co-opting this story? And it's because like I took the public route, and the public route is the accessible route. I did it because I was basically just trying to like shade Shayla, basically, right? I didn't want to be like her and go the private route. I wanted to be like the public school girl. That was like almost a piece of my identity. It kind of is a piece of my identity. Like I am the product of public education. Except it's not really transferable, because it, like, area codes matter and property taxes matter, but at the same time, I guess I didn't realize like how there's like virtually no students who are like me who are able to actually benefit from public education in good zip codes. And I think that that's why she had to snatch the story. And the strange part is like they see that it's not like duplicated, because also if you really look at it and you look at the Black students who are going to the University of California, you're talking about upper middle class Black people. Like it's like the same very small group of people who go, and they go because like the private institutions, like they wouldn't qualify for a lot of either they weren't smart enough to get like merit-based grants at like Stanford, right? And then if you pay the money to go there, that tuition is very expensive. It's like $100,000 nearly a year, and your family has to pay for that. So why would you pay for that when you could just pay, like in-state tuition is like $9,000 or $12,000 or something at the UC. So it's like economically affordable, but also these, like I said, these institutions are funded by tax dollars, which everyone is paying into. So the reason the price can be so low is because of the tax dollars, but that's everyone's money. So it's like the privatization of public resources, which I think is very strange. I also thought, and this comes down to, which I will release this today, but I talked a little bit about immigration and how it looks like Trump is banning access to federal programs for undocumented people. I don't actually know how that would really work for California, because they've privatized healthcare. So it's like a state program that's like Medi-Cal is a state program, but I think it's funded by federal dollars. So I suppose that would mean that the state, it's a federal funded like state run program for medical services, would no longer apply for undocumented people. And that's wild, because they're just, it's a sanctuary state, so there's a lot of people who would be impacted by that. There was also something else with like, it looks like Tennessee passed a bill, or they're trying to pass a bill, which inhibits undocumented children from enrolling in public institutions or any institutions in the state. So they can't go to school anymore. I feel like the shit has hit the fan. Like we're at like the wits end of how do you say it, like social service programs, which is wild, because I feel like for a while I've seen public education as kind of a public service program, mostly because it was so bad, and especially for children of color, it's kind of like a babysitting program. But I mean, I don't know, I wonder, watch the video for yourself and then like let me know what you guys think. I feel like when you look at these numbers, it's just like you're fighting for a crumb, but like you're like all in for a crumb. Like what? I don't know if I'd go that hard for that crumb, especially like when you already have like, it just, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing like, how do you say, the forest through the trees or something, and I could be off, and if I am, feel free to let me know. I don't feel like I'm that off. this is just like wild. I don't know.